Thank you very much, my dear sister Angela, and thank you very much, uh, the Asian American Unity Coalition, for bringing such a wonderful opportunity to engage with the beloved brother and a great public servant, the Honorable Judge Mustafa Tahir Kasubahai. Mustafa Kasubahai was the first American Muslim judge to be appointed to the federal judiciary. He has demonstrated an enduring commitment to public service. He has been service he has been serving the U.S. District Court for the District of Oregon as a United States Magistrate Judge since September 2018. Prior to that, Judge Kasubahai served as the Oregon State Circuit Court Judge for over 10 years. Judge Kasubahai graduated from the University of Oregon Law School in 1996. He earned his undergraduate degree from the University of California, Berkeley. Judge Kasubahai is a prolific writer and a speaker who has published articles and delivered numerous presentations. One of the most speeches that he gave to the American Muslim youth at the Oregon Muslim Academy graduation of 2020. Judge Kasubahai is a beloved brother and a great honor to introduce him. Before I do that, Judge Kasubahai co-authored an important essay in today's American Muslims story here in Oregon. He authored it with his law clerk Sarah Malik, entitled "Is There a Place for Us in Oregon, Muslim Americans in the Legal Profession?" My beloved brother Mustafa Kasubahai is a mentor to many individuals in our beloved Oregon, and he inspires many people that has been displaced, due to our foreign policy. Young American youth today, Salma Sheikh, Amira Shitawi, Naimatullah, Asian and African youth follow his footsteps to be able to become lawyers, to be able to become judges, so they can heal and unify. Judge Kasubahai is a courageous and beautiful song that we sing every day here in Portland, Oregon. He has presented one of the most beautiful, in the court system, what we call today here a training of what we call Oregon implicit bias training. We did it with our first African American Supreme Justice Adrian Nelson and Jolie Rosso and many others. Without further delay, let me introduce you my beloved brother, our Judge Kasubahai.
Thank you, dear brother Wajdi. It is such a pleasure to be here. Assalamu alaikum, my dear friends, brothers and sisters. My name is Mustafa Kasubahai, and my pronouns are he and him. Dr. Lowe, many thanks to you and the Asian American Unity Coalition and the Board of Governors and Life members for bringing this conference together and moving far and forward into the realm of pursuing unity among the Asian American groups here in our country. With the work you are doing with the Asian American Community Unity Coalition, you all honor the pursuit of equity and inclusion. And so it is truly a privilege to be able to present this brief keynote on unity. Now, I'd like to offer that this is by no means a lecture or an attempt to teach a lesson, but really an affirmation of all the work that you've done over the last 2 days in sharing and collaborating with each other as we move towards a new model for unity of our Asian American communities in the country. Who am I? Brother Wajdi described briefly a little bit about me, and I want to share with you a few other things. I'm a proud child of immigrants, and I wish to reclaim that word immigrant to be a proud label of those who have come to this country to make a better life. My parents came to the United States in the 1960s from India. And as a child of South Asian heritage, even though they came to improve our lot and our opportunities, we also struggled to find our place in our communities. In places where people didn't quite know where to put an Asian American, a South Asian American, someone from India. People's desires to categorize oftentimes put me in boxes that I never thought existed. And sometimes that categorization seemed awfully clinical on the part of those who wanted to label me. And back in the day, even sometimes now, when I identify as Asian, albeit South Asian, people still might question whether I really belong to the Asian American communities that are part of this great country. I'm also Muslim American. And as Brother Wajdi mentioned, I also happen to be the first Muslim American federal judge in U.S. history. Now, that's changed. I'm not the only one. There are a few more, and that is a good thing. But I look at this marker somewhat with a glass half empty perspective. After all, it took until 2018 for this to happen. Well after hundreds of years of Muslim Americans living in this country. And so we still continue to struggle with Islamophobia, both internally and externally, and the willingness to include people like me in the fabric of our democracy and our judiciary. There's a long way to go, and I offer this. I would also want us to move away from just merely celebrating the firsts. We are a means to an end, these firsts. But the end has to continue with demanding the 50th and the 100th. And it is only until then that we can say that we are part intrinsically to the fabric of the government and the systems that we live and benefit from. Now, the courts for me are an incredibly important part of service. It's an opportunity to make sure that I am visible and that people who appear in front of the court systems have a chance to see people like themselves there in front of them. It is that level of representation that matters, but it goes further than that. It also requires a commitment to the equity, the vision for a unity from the bench that allows not just simple superficial change, but an entrenched, deep, systematical overhaul of how we treat those who have less access. And it is in this context that I am so very warmed and inspired by the Asian American Unity Coalition's commitment to inclusivity. You, us, the AAUC has raised up a very big tent in which we can all find shelter. And by building this big tent, you also declare to everybody that we will not define ourselves by those that we leave outside. That is a powerful statement that you can make to all of us. It is a powerful statement that you invited me to speak at this conference. I want to switch to something that I want to that means something incredibly important to me, and that speaks to the unity that I think you pursue and that I want to speak more on. And wa in Arabic, I in Catalan, et en français, ane in Gujarati, le in Lao, karigo in Korean, to in Japanese, ha in Chinese, at in Filipino. Forgive me if my pronunciations are elementary and basic and in error, but my attempt to share with you the idea that in all of our languages, and perhaps in all language, there is a simple word, and. And in English, belongs, or is defined as along with, together, linked to. And I submit to you that the most powerful and important single word in language when it comes to the vision of unity is and. The big tent that the Asian American University Coalition has raised today is an and. Now, if I'm to be that pop culture scientist that I'm always wanting to pretend to be, if I were to incorporate a scientific metaphor, fusion, nuclear fusion, the combining of elements is an and that only oftentimes leaves the innocuous and harmless byproduct of helium. Now, fission, the dividing of atoms, is an or, which also happens to leave a lot of radioactive and toxic waste in its wake. So let me talk a little bit about or before I return to and. Or excludes. For example, we don't say brothers or sisters, peanut butter or jelly, diversity, equity, or inclusion. We say you and I, and that is so substantively different from you or I. Or, the antithesis to and, forces a disconnection between each other, between us, and indeed within us. The Asian American Unity Coalition cannot be about only our cultural, ethnic, or national backgrounds and histories, although they are incredibly important to all of us. When I speak to the issue and commitment to and, I ask us all to make sure that and also includes the recognition of different voices by virtue of being a woman, LGBTQ+, class distinctions, generational differences, and even the regional differences from which our own backgrounds come from the countries from which our families may have immigrated. Those many voices included must be part of our and. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. declared that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. It is akin to the notion that if anyone is not free anywhere, I am not free as well. That and is what we need to cultivate, to constantly remind ourselves of, to shape in a way that does not merely blend us together into an indescribable or indiscrete whole. That would be the kind of and that looks more like the melting pot, that deprives all of us of our identities. That is not the and that the Asian American Unity Coalition has described in this conference, and certainly not the and that perpetuates and pursues the unity that is most helpful for equity and inclusion. I leave you with this image. Imagine a rough stone dug out from deep within the earth. It took millions of years to press and compress and heat that stone into shape. Now polish an edge and shine a light. Not much to look at, but polish another edge next to the first. And then another edge, and another edge, and another edge. Keep cutting and polishing these facets, each one connected to another, now sharing an edge with one another. My friends, pursuing unity in this way is like shaping a diamond without end. Every facet, every one of us, every part of our identities, an intersection with one another. Every facet, an interconnected group that deserves to be heard and seen. And when one facet captures the light, it reflects that light through the entire whole. That is the only way a diamond shines. And it is the only way through that selflessness that that diamond can shine brilliantly and that our unity can be seen for the beauty that it is. A diamond is an and. And I celebrate the Asian American Unity Coalition's pursuit of becoming that diamond. Thank you.